Dear friends of the non-European art and culture, this is Ingo from About Africa and the rest of the world. And yes, today it's a new thing I try. I try review of the tribal art year 2022. Tribal art means, of course, especially the traditional Oceanic and African art. And it's the first review I try here, and I will focus mainly on the auctions and I will focus on the fairs. And let's see what has happened in this year. And let's start with the face you see here. You know, this object of the Solomons, it was sold by Schlag at the Parcours de Mondes this year. It was not maybe the best or the highest expensive object but it has such a cool face, so it has to come on the first side, on the first page. But let's start with auctions now. And let's start with one thing, you know, still Christie is the ruler of the tribal art world. What do I mean with this? You know, I counted and it was about 42 millions was the turnover in tribal art auctions in 2022. This is much less than it was 2021 because there was one big auction. But this was okay. I think it's better than 2022. So 42 millions there were. And, you know, Christie's had 26.5 millions euro or dollars, the same, of these 42 millions were made. That means they made 2/3 of all. 2/3 is Christie's. And they did it, for example, in Paris with 9 objects. They sold more than 11 million euros. It's always premium is included. And of course, the numbers here, the turnover is not the perfect one. In some weeks, you will get better numbers and better things from Arcade, I guess, for example. But I was okay for it. There was a Capoue collection in October with nearly 8 million euro. There was La Liberté, and December was another auction of them too. It's the main Christie's auction for them. But they are not only the ruler of the world because they made so much money with all auctions, but there's another point which I think is very interesting. And this is, you know, there were only 7 objects that brought over 1 million euro in the last year. 7 objects, and 6 of them were sold at Christie's. Here are some of these 6 objects which were sold for so much money. It was, you see, it's some kind of diversity. This is Papua New Guinea for more than 5 million euro. It's Easter Island, it's a Congo figure in Kizi, and it's a Dayak. These are the most successful souls which were sold at Christie's. So big ones, great ones, year. I hope you don't hear the dog which I hear, but okay, something's wrong. But does this mean that you can only say expensive objects at the auction of the big three of Christie's, of Sotheby's, and of Bonhams? They are the most important there. Not only in the tribal art world, but the other worlds as well. No. The point is, quality cannot be hidden at small auctions. You know, 20 years, 30 years ago, I often heard the story that there was an auction in a small city, small auction house, and there was someone and said, oh, but they have tribal art. I'm the only one who knows that this is a great mask. Nobody knows, and I will buy it. It will be bargain. And then they looked to the right, and there was the Grüne, and they looked to the left, there was someone else, and yeah, this was the point. Even in the early times. But now with the internet, everything has changed because now everybody can see everything. There are people who do not, they are looking at the internet for the whole night and the whole day just to see where are good auctions for African and Oceanic art. I don't do this, not at all, but okay. So for example, it's a big transparency and everybody knows everything. And for example, I don't know the Hotel de Vente in Montpellier. I don't know them. But they sold this thing for 4 million euro. This was, I think, the highest price, which was for an African art, for traditional African art in this year. There were some protests by activists who said, no, you may not sell these objects. They belong to Africa, to Gabon. But okay, it was sold for 4 million. So you know there's a big transparency. But now to another point, which I think was very important. And this is, you know, in the 50s or 60s or 70s London or 80s, 90s, London was very important. It was a great hotspot for tribal art. This changed in the and later. And the hotspots were Paris and Brussels plus New York. And the last years, however, New York was not so strong anymore. But I think this is changing more and more. So I think we have a rediscovery of New York. For example, what do I mean? Bornholm is always there. They made more than 1 million euro or dollar. Dollar, euro, the same, more than $1 million with their auctions, for example. They saw this fantastic hamburger for 140,000 or this high tiki for 95,000. But but Christie was there as well, and they were not so often there for the last years. But now they're back, and yeah, they made 3.9 millions once again with the hamburger. You say hamburger, okay? And Sotheby's is always New York, and were successful too. They made about 2 million euros in their auction, about 95,000 with this Native American object. So there was a rediscovery of New York. This does not mean that America is a big market, because New York is not America. There still is the San Francisco Tribal Fair, and they are not so big as they were in the old times. And there were galleries like Olesio who have stopped doing something. Of course, there's still Michael Hansen, great work. The point, what I think is great in America, is that they are okay. And New York has I think Pace Gallery has reopened or has opened in new rooms. What I think is great for America is that there are young galleries, young experts who want to do something like Cole Harrell, hi Cole, or like Cooper Evans, hi Cooper. And this is great, but it's still not that America is such a big thing for the tribal art. Let's see what next year's will bring and show. What's behind these big three? Christie's, Mondes, and Sotheby's. There's all around, and a battle. And the battle, for me, is the most important one, and the most interesting is the continental quadrangle of strong houses with real tribal art departments. I mean, of course, Lembert's, Dorotheum, Native, and Zermatt Münster in Germany. And they're always battling who is the best, who can, It's a battle, it's a nice battle. And this year we had one winner, it was Native. Native did 2 or 3 smaller auctions where they sold very good modern art and design. And end of November, they did one tribal art auction where they sold nearly 1 million euro. And this was the highest price for this feather headdress from the Native Americans for 66,000. So Native with one auction was the most successful of these 4. Number 2 was Oceanic. David Oceanic, they made 2 auctions. One was in March, one in November. The first auction was not so successful at the beginning, but they had a good after sale. Here's the number 1 selling thing was this Baulé. And the second was in November the 12th, where they had this I think Sierra Leone stone from ex-Kershash for 15,000. If you compare this, you have 66,000 for this Native auctions, and they were, a Native, it was one auction with 2 parts. One was traditional tribal art, and the other was the private collection of one person. I think it was a sheikh. And I think the sheikh, he paid more for these objects than to which price it was sold later, but Native sold very well. So number 2 is Oceanic. And Native succeeds in selling objects for 30,000, for 40,000 and so on. And there Oceanic has a problem in it. The collectors, the normal collectors, they stop often with $5,000 or $6,000 or euros because that's enough. Then you have collectors who have really money, or you have investors, and they pay 100,000 or 1 million euro, but whatever. And in the middle, you have 30, 45, 50, 60,000, where there are not so many people buying these things. And this is one problem Oceanic has, especially with the German buyers, the German collectors, but Native has not such a big problem with them. They can realize it. I think last year, in 2021, Oceanic had a Cameron post for 30,000, but okay. Number 3 was Lembert's. Lembert's just did one auction, and Emily Jolie and Tim Toyton, they really do a great job. fantastic. For example, they had this what you can see here, this Mali, this Telem sculpture. It was an estimation of 3,000 euro. It was sold for 65,000. Yeah. But my favorite work was this absolute strange, I don't know what it is, from the Madagascar for 18,000. It looks like a coffin from the Congo. It was really amazing. And they did very well with the one auction. Let's see, I think in the end of January, beginning of February, they have the next one. Number 3 was number 4. Number 4 was the Roteum. You know, Joris Visser started fantastic some years ago with the Montseno collection. It had great things from the Horstman collection. It was wow, and it's nice and interesting stories always. This year was okay. Had good Philippine sculptures from Bernhard Flödel. He's a muscle car lover, Austrian muscle car lover living in the Philippines. But yeah. And now he has a second auction, which he just made 100,000 euro, which is not a lot of. You know, this is from the Tonga, the spear was okay. But, you know, this year was not a good Roteum year. But as I know Joris, I think next year will be better. But what's behind these 4? There are others as well. And one of those is Binoche and Gikello. You know, they made 2 auctions and they made about 1 million euro with them. They had this fantastic Huber board, and they have the Sakalava, Madagascar. I think they made 6 couple, whatever, 71,000. The point is that Binoche and Gikello, it's sometimes a big mixed bag. You never know what's there. It's like a Kinder surprise egg. And here they did 2 good actions. And you had this year Ada or Ada. I did not know Ada, but they made 1 auction with 600,000 euro, which is a lot. And this Boccio, for example, this absurd, crazy, fantastic Boccio from the phone in Benin, there was an estimation of 12,000, and it was sold for 92,000. Great. And then there are others with specialized departments which are maybe not so big, but you always have to look at, for example, Hammer Auktionen in Basel with my friend Jean-David. You sometimes see objects at Hammer auctions which were sold for whatever 1,000 euro, and sometimes later you see them in Brussels or in Paris for a little more money. You have Woodin Wallace, Turnbull, you have Rennes en Chair, which is very interesting because one of the experts is Anthony Meyer. You know Anthony Meyer, the Gellert, the Oceanic expert. And you have a Bonham Skinner. It was always on a Skinner, now it belongs to Bonham Skinner. And they had an interesting auction some days ago, and where they sold about 600,000 euro in Boston. And these pools made each more than $50,000, which were made for the northwest coast for the Native Americans. So keep them always in your mind. But they're always interesting. You can always find good material in this, but sometimes they have a lot of things. Yeah. This was about the auctions. What about the fairs? You know, first we have on the continent, we do have 2 big fairs for traditional antique art. This is the Prafa and this is the TEFAF. And the tribal art has done well at the big fairs. And I mean the quality, I don't know how much they sold. I don't know, but the quality was great. For example, here on the June in the Prafa, this is a glass object. He sold it. It's a Songer ex Anita Schröder, and he had fantastic Congo objects there. It was amazing. Daton Sommeray has one of my all-time favorites, this Cross River head. I saw it later at the Parcours de Mondes and I asked him, hi, why isn't it sold? And then he told me it is sold just before the Parcours de Mondes. Montego with this, I think it's Teller, and Schoffel with this nice Dayak thing. They were there, maybe they were more or less successful. And the problem was, then 1 week later, the TEFAF took place. And for example, Schoffel, he participated in the Prafa and in the TEFAF. It was a little stress. I think Eberwein, you know, the Egyptian expert, the gallery did the same. And in Tefa, we had fantastic material, awesome material by the Grunne, like this Barbie thing, and he had great maternités from the Congo. Verdun had one of the best Niers objects I ever saw in my life, really. Doulon had good Cameron, Luca Raton has always good objects, yep. And there was one that's called Sao Rocco. I never heard of Sao Rocco. I hope you can see it. He had this Afro-Portuguese ivory things. I think he wanted to have more than 200,000 for one of these spoons, but they are really rare. But what about the tribal art auctions? Yeah, the Parcours du Monde has shined. It was so nice being at the Parcours du Monde and hearing a lot of English voices. There were Americans. There were people from Australia. Some are watching my videos, so it was nice for me to hear this. And they had good quality. It was maybe not these objects I saw, oh, this is the best I saw in my life, but they had good objects. By the way, all photos you see from the fairs, they're made by me, and you can see all those photos on my website about-africa.de. And I think to each fair I made a video. I think you can link it in the description. You find the link in the description. And Parcours du Monde has shined. For example, amazing was Adrian Schlag with this fragment, just showed fragments of sculptures. There was this absolute strong Solomon thing on this Nigeria object. It was wow. And fantastic auction exhibition was by Luca Raton. Yeah, with these bowly chimpanzees, apes. It was so nice looking. But others were well good as well. The book with Congo, I think he sold this very well from his own collection. Gustave was good. And whistle with the spoon. I don't want to know how much it cost. And I asked them, they did not told it to me. And Ferrandin, for example, was great. So really, you had really fantastic items and things at Parcours du Monde. Very, very, very good exhibitions. Maybe once again, not the 10 million euro object, but good things were there. And for example, we have Flack and Hamson and Audet and Bovis with this absolute strange Nepal thing. So Parcours du Monde was big. I would say second best tribal art fair this year was once again the Bourgogne Tribal Show. And for the Bourgogne Tribal Show, yeah, they are onto new shores. You know, I love this fair. It's on the countryside of Burgundy. But I heard there's a stagnation of visitors. Yeah. This time they had good objects by Christophe Rollet. They had Flock, Maya. It was so nice being there and seeing these things, and it's so familiar. It's an absolute fun fair. And there were Montagu, has always good material. Schlag was there, Werner, which I really appreciate, and Sarah from Barcelona. But why did I tell you that it's on to new shores? Yeah, because next year there will be 2 Bourgogne Tribal Shows. One in Barcelona, this new fair in Barcelona, you know, and in España there are very interesting galleries like Serra, like Montagu. And there will be a new location in Burgundy. To be honest, I'm a little sad because I really love the old location. But if you ever need a reason why to come to Bourgogne to watch and to look at tribal art, the reason why is the new location, of course. It's the Chateau Bussy-Raputin looks absolutely great. I think it's easy to reach from Paris. I don't know, but once again, I really loved the old one. Now I talked about the big fairs. I talked about Paris, the Parcours. I talked about the Bourgogne Tribal Fair. But isn't there any more? But what's the matter with Brussels? You know, yeah, there is Brussels, and for me it's a tragedy. I think there's a wonderful German word called Trauerspiel, and for me Brussels, the fairs of Brussels was a Trauerspiel, a game of sorrow, a tragedy. Because, you know, when I started with the tribal art, there was 2 fairs on one level, and this was the Parcours du Monde, and this was the Bruniaf. And this time, no, there isn't the civilizations. There are 2 fairs now in Brussels at the same time, the Bruniaf and the civilizations, and it was really frustrating because they only seemed as an appendage to the Brava, which were at the same time. There were not a lot of visitors of them. Of course, when I talked to Kellen Brown, who was there as in the gallery, and he told me, no, he sold well. There were not many people there, but they bought something. So maybe the galleries are happy with it. But it was no event, it was nothing. It was so frustrating. It was really sad being in Brussels here in June 2022. Let's see what happens. Maybe they can push the Bruniaf, or they can push the civilizations, the second fair, the competitive fair next year. I really hope it. And there was one problem, that 3 main attractions dropped out at the show. Knows this, It was DT Class, who said sometimes days ago, no, I will not participate. And he's the president of the Bruniaf. And there was Adrian Schlag, who really could not participate. Yeah. And there was Werner, who was part of civilizations, or should have been, but he could not participate either, and had really good reasons. Yeah. Everybody. The health thing, it's a healthy thing. So, Brussels was frustrating. Let's come to the last point, and this is social media as a marketplace. We talked about the fairs, we talked about the auctions, we can talk about the galleries. The social media is not it is important, especially because there are fans, and then sometimes you even can buy objects there. For example, at Facebook groups. There's one group called Creator Fake African Art, which I think they have nearly 10,000 members. And sometimes they have weekends where you can buy things. And you can always find good items for some €100, which is very nice. And you have another one called Deal or No Deal with, I think, 1,500 members. Same, you can always find good objects, nice objects for some €100. And there's a third group, in Facebook. I was part of them. I was a member at the beginning, and then the Canadian boss of them had problems with me. so I'm out. I know nothing of them, what they're doing. I would be interested to see what they're doing, but if the Canadian boss had problems with me, then he has problems with me. Okay, forget it. And we have the Tribal Art Society, where reputed galleries are selling things. You can find good, famous galleries from Paris, for example, or from Brussels. And I met the very charming lady who's doing this, a young lady I think she lives in Argentina for half of the time, other half of the time she's on the continent, and they can do these tribal art things and this social media even there. From there, you don't have to be here all the time. This is the internet, the new times. So, let's come to the end now. I could talk about other issues, so for example about people who died, who were important for this scene, like Pierre Mauss, who was the boss of the Parcours du Monde, or Dartebel. I think he was so important for creating the hotspot Brussels in the 1960s. But I think I have to stop. I talk too much. Just for the end, First, of course, would great if you subscribe my channel. I have 560 subscribers. One day when I have 1,000, then I can get a partner of YouTube and earn advertising money, about €1 per video. But really, then please comment this video. Was it interesting for you? Was it not? You want to just seeing me filming things, or is such an analysis a good thing? Especially one viewer. Did you understand my English today or not? Because he had probably said my English is so bad. Okay. And and for the end, I wish you all, of course, a happy New Year 2023. Bye.